What is up, guys? Another episode of the Almost Made It podcast coming right at you. This week we had on a big guest, Patrick Kisnorbo.
We spoke about his playing career in the UK for the likes of Leicester, Leeds, Hearts, Ipswich, also some injury setbacks, and then also how he went from playing to managing with the likes of Melbourne City, Troyes, now his next chapter.
Let's jump straight in. Welcome back to another episode of the Almost Made It podcast, proudly brought to you by Cultural Club. This week, we've got a debut. He's actually never been on another podcast before. I can't believe it. He just told me before. His resume is very long, so I'll just quick round up. Played in England many years. Unbelievable coach as well. Now he's looking for the next opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Patrick Kisnorbo. How are you, my friend?
All right, thank you guys for having me.
No worries.
Pleasure.
No worries. I can't believe you actually said yes, but here you are. You don't understand. When you told me, I actually very, it's an honor.
Definitely.
I think it's just a good thing to give back to, football community, and you're a nice bloke, so I decided yes.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Let's start from the beginning.
Right.
Where did you grow up and how'd you get into football?
So I grew up western suburbs, sort of Keilor, Moonee Ponds. And my father was, a soccer player who, migrated from Mauritius, but played for a team called Ascot St. Mark's, which was in, the Maribyrnong River there. Is it Viewbank, Fairbank?
Oh, yeah.
Something like that now, I think it's called. And literally he used to bring me to his games, and I always wanted to play soccer. So I started through him with his influence, and my first club was Thomastown back in the day. So ever since, I think 4 years old, I've been kicking a ball and, loved every minute of it. So, I was very fortunate to have, the career that I've had. But starting as a kid, I've always loved the game.
Was that an Italian club back in the day?
Thomastown?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I played for pretty much a majority of Italian clubs besides when I moved to South Melbourne.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things. But again, it was an Italian club when I started,
Yeah. And then I guess from there, when did you actually think, you know what, maybe I can do something with this, I can be someone?
What? Like, I think my problem was I never thought I was good enough. So I never thought it was enough. That's through probably my whole career. So look, I think once I moved to South Melbourne at 14, played with the youth team, then obviously made my debut for the seniors as a young age. I had the chance to go to Hearts after 3 years there, and then I was lucky enough to stay then in England or the UK for 12 years. But I never thought this would be a career. I always thought of I'm doing something that I love, and I was very humbled and fortunate to do that.
Crazy. How did that opportunity come about in Scotland?
So obviously I was at South Melbourne. I played against Carlton.
Yeah.
And there was an old player named Dave McPherson who used to play for Rangers and Hearts back in the day. And he was looking for Australian players to go abroad. And I was one of them. And I trialled out there for 2 weeks in Scotland. And my last club was Hearts. And after 2 days, they said they'll sign me, and the rest was history.
What did you find was the biggest sort of shock when you got there? Was there anything that really stood out?
Yeah. I think when I first moved out for trial, it was more the intensity and the demands of the game and the habits. But when I first moved over properly, first of all is the weather, the culture, the accent. The Scottish accent is very hard. I'm like, excuse me. Not to be rude in that, but I was, I was always asking, excuse me. But just the demands of the game. I think in Australia we were a bit sheltered. And then when you go over there as a young boy, you guys know, it's very difficult going to a new country, new culture. They spoke English, which I was fortunate. But the demands of the game were crazy, and the pressure that you get put on very quickly, is quite demanding. So I think the difference is when you go from obviously Australia, where non-relegation to Europe or England or the UK, where every game counts, and you can't afford to sort of slip up, even though you do have bad games. But, it's very hard there.
Definitely.
I always like to ask this. So you're on trial, your first session, you walk into the change room. What's the feeling like? Do you shake everyone's hand? Do you sit down? What do you do?
No, to be honest, I went around and shook everyone's hand. You don't get much back, to be honest. I think after I think it was the first training session, the guy broke my nose. And they said, listen, to be fair, the players were really good. They said, listen, are you going to take that? And then I just let loose a bit, But that's the cutthroat of the industry, It's every kid's dream to play overseas, and there's so many kids playing around the world. And who's this young Australian kid from Moonee Ponds who's going to take their spot? You know what I mean? So, it's the industry that you're in. But, to be fair, after that day, I felt comfortable and, never looked back since.
It's so funny because we always mention this, the difference that I've always found with Australia to Europe. When we get a new player, so how are you? Where'd you come from? Where'd you play last season? There, it's like, this guy's going to take my spot. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it doesn't.
I think us as Aussies, we're a bit naive. We're really nice.
100%.
I think, I think that's the way we've been brought up. Just our culture that, we're hardworking, but we're honest. We give everyone a go. Where over there, it's, completely different where, like you said, you're going to take my spot. I don't want you here. But that's the way it is, And
like you said, I think there's more at stake. Whereas here, it's like you lose, you're not going anywhere. You're still in, like, let's say, the A-League or wherever. There, it's like, man, we lose, we go on second division. The wage bill cuts by half. It's a lot more pressure.
Yeah, it's completely different. Like you said, like here, there's no relegation. So, if you do have a bad year or a bad couple of years, you still stay in the division.
Exactly.
If you have 1 or 2 bad games over there or 3 bad games, like, and you're in potential relegation, it's so much different. Yeah.
What was, the biggest learning curve that you had at Hearts?
I think that, every game you have to be ready, where like, I think I was, again, that naive young kid from Australia where, I came here and if you had a bad game or, you were offered a bit, like, wasn't really noticed. Where over there, it's, you have a bad game, you get dropped for the next game and you're not playing. So I really learned that, every training session meant something and you can't waste a day. And that's why I think I got my work ethic and my mentality where, I wanted to play every game and I didn't want anyone to take my job or position. So the only way to do that was to train hard every game and not give the coach an excuse to drop me or for another player to come in.
Got a bit off track here because on this topic, do you think it's hard to get that across to players here that maybe have like aspirations to go overseas? Like it's credit to your work ethic, right, and your mentality, but then to actually explain that, do you find that hard?
Yeah, I think with Australia, we're the land of opportunity. So, little Johnny has everything here, has a good school, has a good place to live. The parents provide everything. Where, abroad, it's so much different where a lot of foreigners don't have the money. It's a poor man's sport, basically. So, for them to make it is everything, where for us, it is a lot. But I think we're given a lot by our family for opportunities. And I think that's the difference, Even though I think we're getting better, we are getting better. But I think over there, it's so much harder in terms of the mentality where, a lot of people come from nothing and to make it in football is everything.
It's a way out.
Yeah, where here we might have school, we might have something else. There's another opportunity there. You can get a job here, where I think over there, football is everything, and it's much harder to fall into something else.
So how did you earn your next move from Hearts? How did that come about?
Well, the coach Craig Levine at Hearts moved to Leicester.
Okay.
So he literally said, listen, I'd like you to come, and it was at the stage where I was running out of contract at Hearts and I didn't really want to resign. And I moved to Leicester with Craig Levine.
What was that like? Going from Scotland to England?
Was it, another step again?
Yeah, it is.
I was going to say, it would have been.
Yeah. Look, Scotland, I think it's a great platform to start. I think it's really good. But when you go into England, every team's good.
Yeah.
Every team's hard. Every player's good. So the level of competition is so much harder. But I was lucky enough to do sort of my little apprenticeship in Scotland.
It's probably perfect, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great lead in. It was a great lead into, obviously to English football where even when you start, it's still hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's harder than obviously Scotland, just due to the teams, the amount of games, and the quantity of players.
Was the culture around football a little bit different as well? Was it a little bit more serious or still?
No, it's still everything.
Yeah,
it was still everything.
Yeah.
You know, again, like you guys know, in the UK, football is everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
And it was exactly the same. You know, when we moved to England.
Yeah.
Was there any lifestyle changes that you had to adapt to? Was it a bigger city than Hearts, like going to Leicester?
Well, it's a different city. Edinburgh's a beautiful city,
Yeah.
fantastic city. Where Leicester's a bit more of a student city, a bit more quieter.
This was more of the focus on the football.
Yeah. So look, it was just, you know, wasn't a big town.
Massive,
It was big enough, but I think my main focus was just to go there and do well there.
And you did, man. You played so many games there. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did you have any, I guess, was there any player that, you know, you started to get close to? What was the change room like at Leicester?
At Leicester, yeah, it was really good. I made some really good friends at Leicester. You know, again, they were really good. But the change room is, as you know, it's a bit of banter. It's where players, you know, can talk about pretty much everything. It's just a bunch of guys having some fun.
At the end of the day,
and talking some crap to each other.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is. And in serious moments, you have people that you can lean on, which is really good. But also, like, they end up becoming really close because, you know, you spend so much more time with them than your family members, and, you know, if you have kids or your wife, you know, so you actually really need them. So you need to build a special bond. And I think the successful teams, the change room is so close because, you know, they have to rely on each other at every game and that. It's a special group of players that get you to the next level or get you success, and that's why to have a good change room is so important.
Is there a story that comes to mind
In the change room?
Yeah. One that's
violent or non-violent, like
whatever you want to know.
about me.
Yeah. Or something that you saw, maybe, I don't know.
Saw? Yeah, I remember we were training at Leicester, and as you know, things get heated, and, you know, one of the players went to go and get a knife to stab the other player. And everyone was like, "No, you're not serious."
Was this dead set?
This is dead set, and he actually sprinted to the kitchen to get a big knife.
What?
And I knew the player was going to get the knife, and I'm saying, "I'm like, hey, Momo, you got to calm down." But you didn't know the way Momo thought. He flipped a bit, so that got diffused. But when we thought it was actually quite serious when that happened.
Jeez.
And another time for me, it's not a change room moment, but I got 7 weeks for breaking this guy's ribs. I just double footed and broke his ribs, like terrible tackle, and went to the coach and said I'd bash him too. And like it was just a game full of emotions, you know. And so I just got suspended, and, you know, the gaffer's gone to me, listen, PK, they used to call me Skip back then, Skip. You know, we're gonna have to fine you. I said, listen, gaffer, like, whatever, you know, I did wrong, you know, I just flipped. He goes, yeah, I said, no worries. And it was a Thursday, never forget, and it was starting to snow and rain. And it was after training, and one of the boys kicked me the ball, and I've booted this ball. But I was about 50 metres away from, like, any cars and all that, and it's gone over the fence. Like, we had a big net behind every goal just in case, and it's gone over the net and smashed the gaffer's brand new windscreen of his Mercedes.
You're kidding me.
And I'm like, how am I going to tell him this? So I had to go and tell him, but they couldn't change the windscreen until the following week. So for like nearly a week, his thing, I was getting drenched. So like I had to pay for that as well, and I was like, wait, it was like the week of hell. You know, get a red card, get suspended for 7 weeks, and broke the gaffer's windscreen. So it wasn't a great week, but yeah, at the time, thank God. But, you know, when you look back, you know, it's actually not a bad story. You know what I mean?
You know, I also want to ask, I think Roy Keane brought up the red fog. Is that what he calls it?
What do you mean?
When you just lose
the
it.
red mist.
The red mist.
The red mist. But
for you, he's the king of that.
Yeah.
But for you, what gets you there?
What gets me the red mist?
Yeah.
There's a couple of things. I think when a player disrespects you in talking, like I don't feel like there's a need of a player to player, like, to disrespect each other. I think you just both go to the game. You know, I don't believe in trash talk.
Yeah.
So I think that's one, because you need to concentrate on the game. The second one, I think if it's someone gives you a bad tackle,
Trying to hurt you.
I think that's when it goes.
Yeah.
But besides that, you need to have emotional control.
Yeah.
You know, and again, as you get older, you learn that.
Yeah.
But as you're younger, sometimes your emotions take over.
Yeah.
You know that. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about Leicester, how were you feeling when there was a chance for them to win the league in 2016? Were you like, we get behind them?
Yeah.
You know, like, that would have been crazy. But you never would have thought that would have happened.
Never, you know. But like I said, when you see things like that, you know, it's such an amazing from where the club has been and where it's going to.
Of course.
And you're so proud that you've represented a club that has a chance to do that. And we talked about just before about, you know, change rooms.
Yeah.
The change room was tight. The change room was working together. Yeah. And then you go against all odds and, you know, you win the Premier League. You know, so look, it's a fantastic moment for Leicester.
Definitely.
Fantastic moment for the club. And I'm really happy that, you know, the supporters and everyone there had the chance to actually have that feeling of winning a league. You know, it's really good for them.
What a feeling.
Especially, and again, Leicester's not a big club. It's a good club.
Yeah.
But compared to a lot of clubs, you know, it's not as big. They don't spend as much money. So for them to win that.
It was a 1 in a million.
1 in a million.
Yeah.
You know, it was crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
So I read as well, I was reading a few articles from back in the time.
Right.
I did a bit of research.
Yeah.
And I read an article about you actually being released from Leicester.
Yeah.
And how much that affected you.
Yeah. Look,
What actually happened there?
So that year, Nigel Pearson, we had a few managers, and Nigel Pearson came in. And he was doing a good job with the team, but he wasn't letting me go to the other clubs. So I was basically like hanging around and not playing, and like, well, that's a bit unfair, but that's sometimes that's football, you know. And basically, like, I was in limbo because I was just training, wasn't playing, and you don't know what your future is. So when you don't know what your future is, as a human, you always think, and you think the worst, and you have time to think. You think, wow, like, this is crazy. You know, hindsight's great, but at the time, it's not good. It's not good. So I was like, you know, I didn't know what I was going to do, or didn't know where I was going to be. So I think that was the hard part, dealing with that, you know. And then I was fortunate enough to leave and get a club. But when I had chances to leave and during the year to get clubs, that clubs wanted me, you know, I was never allowed to. And I was like, well, if you don't want me, why won't you let me go?
See, that's what people don't understand.
Exactly.
You know, like, they're quick to, like, the player doesn't want to play for us, doesn't want to do this, but it's like, man, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes sometimes.
A lot of things, you know, sometimes they're not in your control.
Exactly.
So as I've been on both sides, I'm a coach, you know, so like sometimes it's hard, you know. Yeah. Sometimes you can't release a player because you might need them.
Of course.
Sometimes you can release a player, which both parties it works out perfectly. Yeah. But when it
depends how you look at it from whose perspective.
Perspective, exactly right. You know, so from the player, it's very hard because they're like, well, why doesn't he let me go? For the coach, well, I might need him.
Exactly.
But I think, you know, and if it's really bad, it's hard, you know. But I think for me, you know, I always wanted to play for Leicester, and I didn't really want to leave Leicester. You know, it was just at that time that, you know, it was my chance to go, and I had to go, and, you know, fine, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
How did you keep focused during that time? Because I know it'd be hard. You'd probably start doubting yourself. You start, you know.
I don't think it was the doubt. I think it was like, what am I training for?
Yeah.
There's no purpose, no reason.
You know, what am I training for? What am I doing this? Why am I doing that? But, you know, I think as you get older, you got to look at long term.
Yeah.
You know, never look at the short term, because short term never works. You know, if you look at long term focus, and that's what I started to do. You know, well, I'm not preparing myself for now. I'm preparing myself for the next opportunity, and and it came along. But you have those up and down moments of, you know, what am I doing it for? Why? The whys always come up. But look, again, my mentality was, well, you know, I've got a chance. Don't waste it, and you know, sort of prepare for the next chapter of, you know, your life.
Did you ever have like a bit of a reality check in England at all?
Yeah, look, at Hearts, I used to play sort of like a defensive midfielder. And at Leicester, I thought I could do the same, but I was always a defender. I was always a centre back.
Okay.
But the coach used to play me defensive midfielder, and I remember playing against Tottenham, and I was getting booed by my own fans. I'm like, You know, like such a bad feeling. I'm like, shit, like what do I do? And I think it's where my mind changed, where like I didn't let things affect me.
Yeah.
But it was a check where to say, listen, hey, mate, you're nowhere. You still need to work.
Yeah.
You know, trying to change your focus on becoming better. But that was a hard moment to accept, especially when you're playing for the club that you play for and your own fans booing you. It's like, wow, like this is crazy. It's like, put me in check. Okay, reality, work hard, don't worry about the fans, try and do your best. And then things will happen, where I think before I was maybe taking things a bit for granted, maybe, you know, I was always going to play, you know, I'm going to play here, I'm going to play there. And, you know, that was pretty much the check where I think, hang on, I've got to change here.
Yeah.
So, it was bad at the time, but it sort of set me up, I think, for my career after that. Yeah.
So that's like we always talk about.
Yeah.
There's a person behind that player.
Yeah.
And I feel like fans, they don't get it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like we look at it on the outside, yeah, you're booing, whatever. But it actually can affect a player.
Well, what they don't understand is, imagine you went to their job and booed them at their job.
Yeah, and exactly.
Like,
So true.
number one, they'd start crying.
Yeah.
And when a fan goes, I'll pay you wages, well, they actually don't.
Yeah.
They actually don't pay you
exactly.
wages. You know, the club pays you wages. You might buy a ticket or they don't pay the wages.
Yeah.
What they got to understand is you're there to support the team, and not every time is going to be great.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
get that. But I think modern day, as you see more people boo, it actually doesn't help.
It's worse.
You know, and everyone's human.
Exactly.
Everyone is human on that pitch. If they weren't human, then it'd be different. But everyone's human, so everyone has bad games. Everyone makes mistakes. Booing doesn't help. You know, so like I think fans need to get educated on that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do anyone any help.
Right.
No.
And you're trying to actually do your best.
It's not like you're doing it on purpose.
You don't do it on purpose. You know, if you go against the club and if you're an idiot and if you do something bad, no problem.
Yeah.
But if you're actually like really trying and things aren't happening, it is what it is. It's sport.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
sport. You know,
Exactly.
it's sport.
Yeah. So then from Leicester, after all that, you earned a move to Leeds.
Yep.
Which arguably is probably a bigger club.
Way bigger
Especially
club.
at that time.
Yeah, way bigger club.
Yeah.
massive club.
What was that like?
Yeah, I had a few other opportunities elsewhere, but I went to meet the manager there, went to see the training ground, then it was solved. You know, I knew the assistant coach from Leicester because he went from Leicester to Leeds, and look, it was a fantastic time of my life there. You know, bitter. It was actually sweet bitter because I snapped my Achilles there, but you know what a place, what a fan base, what a group. Like honestly, we talk about like change rooms. Some players I play with there, like it was fantastic, which I'm still friends with today.
Who were some of them?
Robert Snodgrass, Bradley Johnson. They're probably the closest.
Yeah.
I still speak to Johnny Howson. I think he's the captain of right now.
Johnny Howson,
Max Gradle.
Yeah.
So Max Gradle is in Turkey now, but he played at Saint Etienne, played over 100 caps for Ivory Coast. So these players that I've really, you know, had a little friendship after football, and even though I'm in Australia, we still speak, which is
It's the best.
fantastic. You know,
I think Leeds also have like that cult following. Like they are like
it's mental. Like explain Leeds, crazy sport.
Yeah.
Like they love the club.
Yeah.
Like I don't hear too many boos there. They literally love it. Everything is loved at the club. So as long as you try, they're happy. You know, it's a typical northern team where, you know, working class people, working class families, you know, go on a Saturday, go to the football, spend all their money on the football to enjoy the game and enjoy a win. It's a great place, great city, great supporters. It was a great time. Yeah.
What was Allen Road like for the first time playing there? Because that seems like even on TV, it's a mad atmosphere. You know, for English football, it's different.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I played there against Leeds, and it was intimidating. But to be on their side, it's fantastic.
Crazy,
like you know. So again, especially when you do well, and you're liked and you work hard. They go behind you. It's really good. You know, I was very fortunate.
You were a fan favourite.
Yes, I've been told. I don't know if it was from a headband or my pick.
Yeah, what's the story there actually? Because I heard in the end it was a bit of superstition or...
No, well, the first game I played for Leeds, I had to get 15 stitches. So I was left with a hole in my head.
How?
Because I got elbowed.
From an elbow?
Yeah, so when they closed me up, I went away with the national team and they keep reopening. So like, listen, you need to get skin graft to fix it up. I said, well, I'm not doing it because then I'll miss games.
Yeah.
So literally I just tape my head every game, and there was a hole in my head, so I didn't care. As long as I didn't miss the game, I didn't care.
That'll make them lock you with him.
Yeah. I don't know if it was stupidity or anything else, but I just loved the game. I didn't want to give someone a chance to take my spot. So I just played with it, And as you do, you always play with injuries or something,
Goes back to your mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is this the period where you turned down the Socceroos?
The Socceroos?
Yes.
No. So when I was at Hearts.
Oh, that was.
When I was at Hearts, obviously Graham Muddle was the coach for the Socceroos, and basically it doesn't happen now, but it was club v country.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, I want you for the Olympics. And I said, well, I want to go to the Olympics, but my club said if I go, when I come back, I might not play. So now this wouldn't happen. You go to the Olympics and you'll find,
when you come back.
But I had to pick. I thought, well, I'm getting picked for Australia because of my club.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to do all this work to maybe come back home, because if I didn't play at Hearts, where was my next move? And people are a bit distorted thinking, you're going to go to the Olympics, have a great Olympic tour, and you're going to get scouts to bring you somewhere else. So I thought, I spoke to some people in the management, and I decided to stay at Hearts and not go to the Olympics. I would have loved to go to the Olympics. I would have loved to. Don't get me wrong. It's always been my dream to play in the Olympics. But at that time, I need to think of, again, long term. And I decided to stay at Hearts. And I don't think I got picked for Australia for the next year or two.
Well, that's the reason I asked, because I read there was a bit of backlash there. And then, did you ever think, have I stuffed this up? Am I going to get picked?
But you know what? I think Grandma at the time says, I think didn't want to play. Where it's completely wrong. I did want to play.
Of course.
It was just in the situation that I'm in. And if you look at the players that went to the Olympics and me, I think I had a bit more of a bigger career than a long career than a lot of them. And not because I was better or not. No, it was just that at that time I decided to go that way.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So look, again, it wouldn't happen now, but back then, that's what that's the sort of the problems we had, growing up, and luckily it's changed now.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting what you say. It's like, see these decisions, like when you make these decisions, you don't realize, you could have gone to the Olympics, and then your career could have been totally different. You might have lost your contract to Hearts, gone straight back to the A-League. Let's say, you never know. It's unbelievable, these little decisions that you make at the time.
And that's the thing, and. Funny enough, the Leicester, the Hearts coach took me to Leicester.
Exactly, and then
if I went to the Olympics, maybe that wouldn't have come up. Exactly so, right. Everything's great in hindsight and stuff. But I think I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason, and I chose that reason. Yeah.
So then, from Leeds, you went to Ipswich for a bit, didn't you?
I went on loan.
On loan,
yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, again, I had Mick McCarthy. He was a great guy, great manager. Wasn't playing so much at Leeds because I had a bad injury. And I just went to get some games, because I wanted to stay in England. But they were doing really well. So fair play, play a couple of games, but they were doing really well. And then, after that, I decided to come back home.
What's it like being on loan though? Like playing on?
It was my first time, so it never happened. It was a bit weird, because
I'd imagine it'd be a bit.
Yeah, it's hard because you expect when you go on loan you're going to play. And it's also hard because you want to be maybe at the club that you're at.
You're like half and half. We're more belong.
You actually don't belong to anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's, it was just to play games and just to get fit again. And I wish I played more games, but obviously I didn't, which is fine. But yeah, like it was just one of those periods where, I had to make a decision. Do I just keep training at Leeds, or do I try and get some game time? And that's what I decided.
So it's very hard to actually, but like 12 years in England, I don't think people playing at home understand how difficult that is.
Yeah.
Because, you make it.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah.
But then to stay there at that level for 12 years, like what does it take, man? Like,
but I think it takes a lot. I think it takes, obviously, like, you need to work hard, right? Let's be honest, I think you need someone that believes in you, I think you need to understand the sacrifice you need to make to stay there, because not everything is perfect. You know, whoever tells you that is wrong.
Yeah.
So I think you need to sacrifice and understand what you're sacrificing for the better of your future. And you need a bit of luck.
Yeah.
You know, you need someone that, you know, that sticks by you, play games, they're able to stay in the system. Because now these days, you know, people are very quickly removed due to money. The money of the game is going crazy. I can buy him. I'm just going to get him. So it's so much player turnover.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to have the career that I did, you know.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of like sort of, or not a lot, did you have like a close group around you throughout your career that really helped you, like your parents? Did you have an agent that you're really close to, or you were just, you know, you had friends in that, but it wasn't really like a tight-knit group?
Yeah, I had a close group of friends, you know, from school.
They helped you, you just like switch off from football and stuff?
Oh, all the time, you know. You know, I was more worried about what was happening sort of back home than worrying back. And again, that's just the Australian in me, you know.
Like it helped you.
Yeah, my family were very supportive.
Yeah.
You know, and then obviously my wife now, who was my girlfriend back then, you know, was supportive. So I was very lucky to have the people around that I did, you know,
that they understood what you wanted to do.
Yes. Yeah.
How did you approach like every training? Like I said, 12 years in England is crazy.
Yeah.
Like when we actually talk about it, because we had a dint that you had in Europe, right? The tiniest little speck of what you had, and that was fucking difficult, man.
Yeah.
To spend 12 years at the top.
Yeah.
Was every training like this is war? Or was it,
look,
do you ever take the foot off a bit? Or was it always...
Nah, honestly, I think growing up, I was never the best. And I always had players that were better than me. So I learned at an early age that for me to become near them, I had to work harder than them. So it always stuck with me. So like when obviously as I got older, moved overseas, like I always knew that I had to be trained at least trying to be the best. Even though maybe my ability wasn't better than theirs, but maybe my work ethic and mentality was.
Yeah.
So that's how I compensated. But I always had to I always wanted to be the best that I could be, because I knew there was better players out there. And that's what I did every day, because I was scared of getting dropped. I didn't want to give people an excuse. I always wanted to show that I always wanted to be thereabouts, and play every week.
Yeah. How important is that winning mentality?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, we play sport to win, right?
Of course.
Let's be honest. We do everything to win. So I was always part of successful teams as a kid in that. And it just stuck with me that, you know, you always want to win. But I always knew the price of winning. And the price of winning was always the hard work, the working togetherness, you know. That's what I learned, again, young, you know, that you have to be a collective rather than an individual. And that stuck with me, you know, through my whole childhood.
So do you believe that winning mentality is something you have in you, or do you learn it?
I think there's two bits. I think winning mentality is taught to you when you won.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to win, but sometimes when you're not part of winning teams, you become a bit like your environment where it's okay to lose.
Yeah, of course.
Where when you've had a bit of success and you know what it takes, you know what it feels like, you know what it is. Yeah. You want more of that. It's like a drug addiction, right? You're addicted to it. And when you don't have it, you're craving for it.
Yeah.
I think that comes with being in successful environments. If you've never been in one, I don't think you know what it feels like, but you want to be part of it.
Yeah.
So I think it comes in two sort of bits.
I think that's the most interesting part. You say with everyone that's like a winner, they grew up winning, with successful teams at that age or their sport. And like you said, it's a drug. You play table tennis, you want to win because you just want that feeling. You know? And then I think that's how you, like you said, you don't just wake up one day, I'm going to win, I'm a winner.
No.
You just slowly get it fed to you and then you just I want more, I want more,
of course.
You know? It's, I think, very, very true.
It's always interesting to ask that question because everyone has a little bit of a different take on it.
Yeah.
But what you said, I think I resonate best with that as well.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You briefly mentioned your injury.
Yeah.
Your first big injury.
Yeah.
How did it happen?
Well, my Achilles or my knee?
Well, what came first?
My knee.
Your knee.
I was telling you outside. Yeah. So I did my ACL in 2011, let's just say 3. Let's just say, I don't even know. But that was my first taste of injury where setback, you think, am I ever going to become back
The same.
the same, you know? And especially at that time, I was already going to sign at another club. So the pre-contract was already ready in that. And then once you did it, you think reality changes. You think, wow, I'm not going to go there now. So I think that was really hard.
Yeah.
And the Achilles was pre-World Cup, but we already found out the World Cup team. And I was already in it. And then a week later, when you snap your Achilles,
Jesus.
you're like, every kid wants to play in the World Cup, right? So when that happens, you're like, wow. And everyone talks about how bad the Achilles is, and you think, oh, am I actually going to get back? And I was told that, listen, you're probably going to have to retire.
Shit, really?
Yeah. So just me training and coming back at the way I was great, but, you know, it was a hard one to take.
What was the actual, because some people say, you know, different things about Achilles. What was the actual feeling like? Was it like, but people say like, it feels like someone shot me in my ankle.
Yeah, but when people say that, have they ever been shot by a gun?
Yeah, exactly. It's true. You're right.
Let's be honest. Yeah. If you've been shot by a gun, I understand it. But I doubt it. Like, honestly, the both times I've done it, so...
You finished the game for sure. This guy got up.
Yeah, I know.
No,
Put a magic
put a bit of
spray.
tape around.
I tried to, and I realised there was a hole in my sock. I think, nah, it's not going to work. I felt like just a big pull and a snap. You know, I didn't hear anything.
No.
I didn't hear anything, but I felt like a big pull and snap, and then you knew something was wrong.
The pain comes straight away, or the adrenaline kicks in?
I think adrenaline shock.
Yeah, and then...
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't... The Achilles, you're not in that much pain.
Yeah.
It's just shock when you see a hole in your sock. You think, oof, there's a big gap there. You're in trouble.
Definitely.
You're in trouble.
The fact that you've done 2 ACLs
Yep.
and 2 Achilles.
Yep.
And you're still going. For me, I've done my knee once, and that whole process mentally fucked me up.
Yeah. If I was a horse, they would have shot me. You know, I'd
put
be
you down, that's
Mortadella or something like that, let's be honest.
What was that like mentally, like, you know, with rehab and...
Yeah, I think once you've had a major injury, sort of have another one, you sort of, you know what you're going to get into.
Yeah.
My last Achilles, I was retired, and I knew the rehab I did with I'm like, oh my God, I have to go through this again. But look, it's part of sport, you know, and the quicker you accept it and understand it, it is what it is. Of course, the feeling of when it happens, obviously, is always, you know, it's always hard to take.
Yeah. And then after England, back home.
Yeah.
To Melbourne Heart.
Yeah, I came to Melbourne Heart, started at Melbourne Heart. Then obviously we were taken over by the City Group pretty much a couple of months into that sort of journey. It was going back in time, I think, you know. Look, it was great to be part of Melbourne Heart, but, you know, no training ground, no facility, like, did I make the right choice here?
I was going to ask, was it like,
it was like a step back in time, you know, like where, you know, I thought things had become better here. But when you're rolling up to a training ground with no facility and...
It's like you're back in the VPL.
You're used to everything being done, and this was this and this was that. But you know what? It was actually quite humbling because it brought you back to reality that, you know, in the day, you know, sport's a sport, and okay, you might not have the best thing else, but you still have to go out and train hard and try and win.
Of course, definitely.
So yeah, it was sort of like, you know, it was quite humbling that, you know, I had to come back to sort of that, yeah.
Was it, I don't want to say easy, but coming from such a high level?
The thing, people ask me that question. Look, I was playing with my Achilles. I was probably out of 100, it was probably about 35%.
Yeah, you were still killing it.
You were captaining the team at that stage,
Yeah, I captained every team that I was at.
Yeah.
I was playing at 35% because I knew my body. I knew the Achilles, how sort of, how much it took its toll. I think as you just get older, I think you just get smarter. So things that you can't get there with physical pace and that, your sort of brain and mind reads anyway, which made that easier. But look, the league's quite hard. You know, it's some good plays.
Yeah.
It's very transitional, so a lot of spaces.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to adapt. You know.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. What was the main? Always ask, what's the main difference you found between European football and the A-League? Apart from like the obvious, I guess, overall quality.
I think basically for me it's, you know, the meaning of every game.
Yeah.
The pressure you go into every game where, home or away, if you're up there about want to get promoted, it's, okay, we have to win, we need to win. If it's at the bottom, it's, okay, listen, we need to get a point or let's survive, not get relegated. Where here, I always told my players, what pressure do you have? There's no pressure. There's no relegation. Just go and play. Just go and play. Give everything you have, play with no pressure. And I think that was the meaning of every game is different to, I think, here in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to ask
I wanted to ask you one thing about City. Because you were there, obviously, from the transition into the City group.
Yes.
What did you, like you see now, Melbourne City, and the City group, how established, how many teams they've got. What did you notice, they come in there with a big vision plan, and then just over time you were there, just implemented everything. What do you think made it so successful?
So I think when City first came in from Melbourne Heart, I think they wanted to bring a club where it was professional. Yeah. We were professional, but in a professional setting, so you had every chance to succeed.
Yeah.
So what they did, they built a training ground. They built facilities where we could excel or players could excel. And then they wanted to build the club like that through the juniors setup, through men's, women's, and all that. I think what's made them successful is by us winning.
Of course, and then the results.
I think results, but we set up a style and a behaviour that was non-negotiable, and we continued that until I left. Yeah.
Definitely.
How
was the transition from player to coach? Did you always have that vision?
It was either going to be that or a nightclub bouncer, one of them. I failed school, so it was going to be that. Yeah, look, I always wanted to be in the game. I loved football, so it was actually quite easy. The only part is you don't realise how much you work out of football as a coach. As a player, you finish at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
As a coach, you don't finish till 8, 9 o'clock at night sometimes. So that was quite the difficult bit. But it was something that I accepted, and always doing hard work and hours was never a big thing for me. Yeah.
What did your day consist of? Like you say, you finish at 8 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah. So look, with the first team, I'd basically get there at 7 o'clock. My staff had to be there by 7:30. Literally go through sort of what we've sort of organised the day before training, make sure everything's running well. Then we'll get set up. So the players, when they walk in, they see that training set up, everything's organised. Do a video in the morning, train, the boys have lunch. We would review training, put in clips that we wanted for the following day, and start preparing always for the game. This is how we could look for the game. And by the time that was done, it's 7:30, 8 o'clock. So you don't leave, but you're always thinking. And I think I said in one, I think there's no such thing as hours in football. Yeah. If you think you're doing 9 to 5, then you're in the wrong. You're in the wrong industry.
Probably wake up in the middle of the night, man, thinking about the games.
I used to think of something and think, I better write that down just in case I forget.
Sure.
A bit of OCD, and my missus like, "What are you doing?" But it's me.
Pay it off, but
I can't change me. I can't change me. Yeah.
When you came in, was there obviously? I guess you built a very distinctive style.
Yeah.
When we watching your teams play.
Yeah. Was
there non-negotiables that you see? What were the standards? What were the expectations from the start?
So when I was assistant, Eric Mombats had the style. So that was a non-negotiable. We continued with this. But I wanted to implement more hard work, even though we worked hard. It was just that we could run over teams.
Yeah.
So pre-season was always the killer. If you can't run, you can't play.
Yeah.
And that's what I built my success off. If you don't work hard, you're out. I don't care who you are, don't care what it is. And that's what we built off, hard work. It was so simple, so effective. But for us, that was everything. There were non-negotiables. If you didn't run, you don't play. You're out. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
Yeah.
We just really made it hard for them.
And it worked.
It worked, but it built a mentality, it built a resilience.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone, everyone speaks about process and that. We were very process driven. It wasn't about the outcome. I always have this equation: process plus performance equals outcome, not anywhere other around. That's how it works. So we sort of had these little things that really worked for us, you know. And again, the boys should be proud for what they did.
Yeah, unbelievable achievement.
Yeah.
How were you, like, player management wise? Because obviously these are things we don't see, right?
Yeah, of
these
course.
are behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Did you always have a boundary with players, or you didn't mind getting close?
Yeah, look, I think I'm one of those ones where I got close to the players, you know, because, again, you spend every day with them. So you need to be their coach, but you also need to be a brother, a father. Yeah. You need to. They need to have that, and they need to understand that if they need any problems, they can turn to you. So I was always close to my players, but they knew once training started, don't cross the line. Yeah. And they knew that, you know, after football they could ring, you could talk, no matter what it was. And still to this day, you know, some of the players took me out for dinner. The other night. You know, and that's a great relationship to have. And, you know, when they do that and you're still not the coach,
you know you've done something.
You know you've done something right, you know. So, look, it's great to have. And, look, I still speak to the players, you know, on a daily basis. You know, they might ask for advice, you know. And if I can help someone, you know, it's a great feeling to have.
I have to ask, what was the big – there had to be one blow-up. There had to be one big –
What, in the team?
Yeah. Surely
with the player?
Even yourself. Was there a moment you just – these?
Welcome. Sir Alex boot to the head or something?
Let me think. Yeah, there was. It was waiting against Adelaide. It was like literally the last minute. And Adelaide, as you know, it's a hard place to go. And we had a throw in, and Geordie Boss just took it too early and went back to Glover, and Glover should have just cleared it. But he's cleared to the play and they've scored. Literally the last sort of kick of the game. And I've got in and I've put my hand through the wall. You know, again, emotional control. I just didn't have it that night. Just for the fact that, you know, we had the chance to win and we dropped 2 points. But look, it's part of it, you know, like it's part of the emotion. You know, sometimes I have to say, maybe I need to handle things better. Like it is what it is. But I'm a guy that's always wears your heart on your sleeve. And if something annoys me, I'll tell you. If something done great, I'll tell you. If something annoys me, like, you'll know because I won't hide it. And it was just that time where, you know, it happened, and sometimes you can't change it.
Yeah, but you know what? I actually respect that more as a player. Like, if I'm playing under you and you come in there and break the door after something like that, like, you know what? He cares. He's one of us, man, because I'm just as hurt as he is.
Yeah.
You know, you don't come, it's all right, guys, you know, fucking don't worry about it, forget about it next week. Nah. We just fucked it up, man.
Yeah, like if there was a problem on the day, like I would address it, like because I can't not. You know, I'm not one of those players to think of it, or coaches think of it the next day and then maybe deliver it in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of if something happens and it needs to be dealt with there, you know, you got to sort of live in the moment and deal with it. And if it's said it in a bad way, there's no meaning to it. Like you don't mean it, but it's the way you feel.
Exactly.
And that's the way it is. Yeah, it's sports at the end of the day. And again, everyone's different. Everyone is completely different. But that's the way, you know, I was that day.
It goes back to culture and everyone's buying into the same thing.
Yeah.
So everyone wants the best. It's not like you're going out there hammering someone because you don't like him.
No.
You want the best for the collective.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It happened, and then after that, you know, I spoke to the player the next day as well. Rang him, so listen, look, are you okay? How's things? Listen, everyone makes mistakes, but at the time, I needed to say, listen, you've got to learn. That can't happen.
Exactly.
And that's how it works. And then the next day, you okay? Yeah. And then you go to get training.
Yeah,
so then, but now I know that he wouldn't do again.
Exactly.
You know, so it doesn't matter how it gets across the message, it got across.
As long as it gets across.
Yeah.
Have you ever, you don't have to name names here, but has anyone ever had a go back at you?
I think Carl Robinson did, maybe.
Yeah.
In Western Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he...
The manager?
Yeah, I think he did. He called it. Something happened. We scored. That's right, we scored, and I didn't actually see the goal. So I couldn't believe it was a free kick for us. I'm like, oh my God, free kick for... And we scored literally direct. And I didn't see the goal, and he started calling us a cheat, and I'm like, mate, I actually didn't see it.
Yeah, relax. Yeah.
And I'm like, relax. But when you keep going...
100%.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick up for myself
Wrong
and go
guy,
back
man.
at
See
you.
that shit, look, he's going at you. Man, the ref blew the free kick. You didn't blow for the free kick. So what's he going on?
Again, I didn't see it.
Exactly.
It's not my fault. I didn't call it. But again, if you're gonna go back, if you're gonna keep going, no problem. But I'm gonna come back at you.
Yeah.
You know. But besides that,
What about one of the boys in your teams? You've given it to someone that ever give it back to? Never, huh? No way. Smarter than that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
never.
I would never open my mouth if I was a player.
I've seen him box lately.
Yeah,
man.
that's-
So get out of the way of those
100%.
punches. What did you look for in a player? Like, you know, when we're talking about maybe a younger guy starting to break in,
good question.
what do you look for?
Yeah. So I'll go through the process of young to old. So every player that I signed that was under 18, I went to the house and met the parents.
Well,
So I took that time because I wanted to see what their living conditions was, how their family, you know, how they were brought up. I wanted to know the family. So I did all that for all the players under 18. Then as they got sort of a bit older, first thing was, how are they as a person? Because if they're a bad person, I don't care your ability, you're not coming anywhere near the club.
Yeah.
Then I looked at sort of, you know, your work ethic. If you worked hard and you're coachable, tick.
Yeah.
You know, and then you look at the ability. You know, but before that, I looked at those sort of key elements, and that was with every age. So from 30 down to 16, whatever. That's what I looked for. You know, are you coachable? Are you a good guy? Yes. Okay. Then you suit into the way we want to play. Great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the way it worked. You know, I didn't go ability first. I went, you know, personality.
Person first, yeah.
Are you coachable?
Yeah.
Do you work hard? Okay. And then we'll look at the rest.
Yeah. When, I guess, after all that, when do you then decide, all right, this kid's ready now? Is there like a, I don't know, benchmark or something they got to hit?
No, not really. I think it's just timing. Like you know, a lot of kids that I coached, you know, some of the players got injured and they went in.
Yeah.
It's the question of, are they ready or not? You don't actually know until you throw them in. And that, again, they might make mistakes, but you got to see long term. Do you see them getting better? If so, yeah, you keep playing them. If you think, well, you need to take them over the firing line a bit, then you rest them a bit, then you put them back in. So you drip feed them, you know. But it was just due to timing. If someone got injured, someone suspended, someone didn't play well, you know, they got the opportunity. And if they took it, mate, I didn't care what age they were. I played them.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Now moving on from your coaching career at Melbourne City, you went to one of the big 5 leagues in Europe.
Yep.
France. We briefly mentioned it before the show.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was crazy. It just came along so quickly. You know, we played against Newcastle, and then 3 days later, you know, you fly into Paris. So it was like a bit of a shock. Yeah, I didn't have time to reflect. I didn't have time to think. It was just an opportunity given, and literally, you know, I decided to go for this coaching stuff. Yeah.
How do you actually pronounce the name of the
Troyes.
Okay,
Everyone says Troyes.
Troyes, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's very similar to an Italian.
Yeah, we
word
know. I
that-
understand. Yeah.
You didn't want
Do
to
you speak
say it.
French?
No, I understand it. I can speak a little bit. You know. Yeah, it's called Troyes.
Troyes.
Yeah.
And I guess, what was the pressure there? Was it even a next level, or was it?
It was sort of two different things, because Women League, it was about survival. Again, we're on the opposite side of the scale, where we have to survive, you know, and you have these great plans, but if they're not met with your sort of direction, nothing happens. In hence where, like, for us, it was, that's what happened. You know, we went with a clear idea of we want this, this, and this, and you know, when it doesn't happen, it's disappointing. Yeah, but we didn't sort of get what we sort of asked for or wanted. And again, everyone has their own reasoning. Could have been financial, but you know, but we definitely had a plan for the club. Whether it was, you know, on our terms or not, that's a different story. But we definitely had a vision. Yeah, the vision was always very, very, very clear, very, very clear.
How much an impact does, say, everyone else involved in a club like that have? Like the owner, that?
Look, it's a City Group club.
Yeah.
So look, it's run by the City Group, and what the City Group want, you know, it's their club. So we have to respect and understand that. Then you're working with, you know, staff from Troyes, and you know, first of all, you have alignment. if you're not aligned by all three, it doesn't work. You need to have a clear direction. If the direction isn't clear with everyone, it doesn't work. So like you need to be very aligned and very clear and very transparent. And if that doesn't happen, again, it's very hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be. How were, I guess, what was training like there? Because I've actually had a little bit of an experience in France
Yeah.
with football. I say the play is a little bit different mentality-wise.
Yeah, I think with there's a lot of talent in France.
Yeah.
There's probably one of the best in the world, if not the best.
Teams,
Unbelievable.
It's phenomenal, right? I think where I was, so I can't speak on every team, but where we were in Troyes, I think it was different. They had different ways to train to what we were. Where when we train the way we play.
Yeah.
So when I first came, it was okay, but they weren't used to training like that for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And that's always hard, so you got to change the mentality of the player. And we had a bit of an older team, and to change all the players is difficult. So we sort of had to adapt a little bit, but also culturally, I think, it's sort of the way, where sometimes maybe less is more, where I don't think like that. Again, I have a clear philosophy and a clear direction where, you train, because when it comes to Saturday, it becomes easier.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so that's pretty hard enough as it is coming into a club like that, trying to get across your philosophy.
Yeah.
Then when you can't speak the language,
Yeah.
how do you?
Yeah, look, the language barrier was not that bad.
Okay.
Like we had enough people that could speak English.
Yeah.
We would show them training every day, so it wasn't a case of I don't know. We show them the drill every training session, so they knew, and then we would run through it. So look, they understood it. So look, I think when you try to say something quickly, you need to think, you need to ask. I get that, but football is such a universal language now.
Exactly.
There's so many foreign coaches coaching everywhere around the world.
Exactly.
Language for me wasn't a great big deal.
Yeah.
It's more of a respect thing, which we started with the French lessons.
Yeah.
But there's so many different nationality coaches in the world. Football is one language.
Exactly.
So yeah.
When you did, how you obviously went down. When you went down to League Two, was there a big difference in the club? Was there a shift in the club, like in terms of did you, like financially when you dropped down, did you have to release a lot of players? New vision, like obviously then you're trying to get back up.
Well, we knew at a certain point of League One where we were going to finish.
Yeah.
So we started already planning.
Yeah.
So if we got to League Two, it was already done and we knew it was clear. Yeah. I think there was a lot of players already coming off contract.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, because obviously we didn't sign them. So it was like do we keep them or not?
Of course.
And it was like an easy decision whether that stay or not. So it was more of, okay, who do we want to bring in for the League Two? Because it looked very different to League One.
Of course. Yeah.
And it was, can we get these players? And if we can, okay, what does it look like? If we couldn't, what's our backup A, backup B, backup C? And that was the thing. And also you have a budget.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if your
changes,
budget, so if your budget is low, then you need to rethink things. If you have a good budget, then maybe you're able to bring sort of more of the players you want than less of the players you can. Yeah.
What's the goal? What's the end goal here?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I want to coach at AC Milan.
Yeah,
That's the end goal.
Smart man. Milanista?
Yeah, of course.
Smart.
Why didn't you tell me before we started this?
Smart.
I wouldn't have asked him more.
Look. I think if I came on and said, I just want to be a coach, that's probably not me.
Yeah.
I've always had aspirations to be the best. Whether you get there or not, you don't know.
No.
But as long as you try and work hard, and that's my aim, to be the best version I can of myself and be the best coach that I can. And I want to be one of those coaches that represents Australia really well. To be looked upon as like, he's another coach from Australia that that succeeded in Europe or succeeded in the UK. So we can push our generation forward and, people respect, people like us in Australia. That's what I want to do, for the country. But I've always wanted to be, be part of, one of the best clubs in the world or the biggest clubs in the world.
We've got our support, man. For
Thank you very much.
Fly the flag.
I hope that you coach Milan one day.
Thank you very much. Well, I started first year, cultural club, yeah.
As much as I want to say it, I hope you do as well. Come to Inter.
One thing I want to ask you about before we
can ask me whatever you
finish, because I'm interested. Was there a player, even managed or played with, that you were like just looking at them in training or what they did, and you're just like, wow, like this boy's special. Like there's something about him. Do you ever come across players like that?
Yeah, plenty. Yeah.
But is there one that stands out?
Without upsetting anyone.
Yeah, like
I don't know if it's. Look, I think when you're in the national team, like you can see so many good players. Like I could name so many that were like, wow. I think I was a bit more in awe of them than anything else because they were so good. I think for me, the biggest one was when you see old players. Yeah. So when I met Aurelio Vidmar, it's like, wow, that's Aurelio Vidmar. So I was like in shock, because I used to watch him. That's the way I've always seen it. Like when you play the player, you think, well, they're good. Yeah. But you're in the same generation, you're in the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, I look at the past players and I think, so I'll never forget, we played against Marseille, and I saw Jean-Pierre Papin.
Legend.
And you're like, nah, this is not real.
It's not real, exactly.
And you're in awe of that, you know. So when I used to see these old Socceroos players or old NSL players, I was like, wow, that's, look at these guys. With the guys that I played with, I played with Tim, you played with Bresh, you played with Harry, with Dukes, Craig Moore, Pop. You played with all these players, Vinny Grella. You think, wow, they're great players. But at the same time, and you don't realise how good they were until you finish.
Yeah. But you don't really take a notice of that.
Of course, but when you see like the old players, I'll say one player. I just thought of him. Probably Fabian Delph.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The old ex-Villa.
And like he was 17 when I went to Leeds, and you're like, mate, this kid's got something.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. He was unbelievable, Delphi.
He was quick.
He had everything. At 17 years old, you compare yourself for 17 when you're 17 and him 17. And he got bought, from Leeds to Villa, I think, for 8 million or 6 million or something.
Then he went to City, I think.
He went to City,
right. Was it Everton, I think?
But he was like, wow. He was like, geez, like this boy can play.
Yeah.
But that's how I've always seen it.
Yeah, of course.
The old generation, you're like, a bit starstruck.
Yeah, of course.
Your generation, you think, wow, they're great players, but you're together.
But you're with them.
Yeah. No, you got more of a personal relationship
with them.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's how I've always looked at. That sort of things,
Finishing up, what's next for PK?
I don't know.
Without
I don't know, to be honest. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah.
But the next sort of project or the next sort of job or whatever it is, opportunity, it's got to be something that, that I think it's going to work and, that I'm going to be happy with and that we're all aligned, because there's so many valuable lessons that you learn through failure. Yeah. And that's how you grow, right? So there's valuable lessons that I learned in France that I know I won't make the same mistake now. So look, it's got to be a project that I think, there's a chance of winning. There's something that, you can potentially have long-term success, maybe not short-term at the start, but long-term. And something where, I think that all parties are aligned to do. And if I have that, then
happy days.
Be happy, but you don't get all those things, but,
of course.
That'd be in the ideal world. But I don't know, I'll be just grateful for be given a chance again and, to show, what I want to do.
Well, Paddy, we wish you all the very best. It has been an absolute honour for us to have you on the show.
The pleasure's all mine, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Very, very much.
Thank you.
Everyone playing at home, thank you for listening to another episode of the Almost Made It podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you click follow on Spotify, share across all our platforms, and we'll see you next week. Ciao.
Ciao.